Good morning, Dan and Amy. So Democrats have some challenges that they have to overcome as well come the fall if they're going to be successful in taking back the House. There's certainly divided opinion among the socialists in the Democrat Party, which I guess is the majority of the Democrats now. Certainly that's where the energy is. Some dissension about Nancy Pelosi as the future speaker were the Democrats to be successful. Nancy Pelosi firing back over the weekend on MSNBC that she hasn't asked anybody to vote for her for speaker, and she's just telling Democrats win by any means necessary, essentially. So that's an issue. Also an issue, Keith Ellison.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
With his ex-girlfriend or something?
DNC number 2.
I'll call him the backup, the deuce.
Yeah. Tom Perez's right-hand guy. Karen Monahan, his ex-girlfriend, her son over the weekend accused Keith Ellison of abusing his mom, Karen Monahan, Ellison's former girlfriend. I found over 100 texts and Twitter messages and video almost 2 minutes long that showed Keith Ellison dragging my mama off the bed by her feet, screaming and calling her an effing B and telling her to get the F out of his house. Ellison denied the statement, which led Karen Monahan, his ex-girlfriend, to speak publicly to a leftist outlet, Think Progress. You know this is true. You know what you did. When he put that out, and I stand with him, it made everything about, well, where's that? Where's this? It's become about she needs to prove. I had to sit and stay silent, Monahan said of her son. I know, and then he said what he said, but essentially Monahan suggesting that that what her son said is true. Number one, that Keith Ellison is lying. And she responded in part because she's been attacked by, erstwhile Me Tooers who are rallying to the defense of Keith Ellison because he, of course, is a man of the left.
Well, he needs to resign. He needs to do the right thing and step down.
Well, as I said,
at least from a leadership role at the DNC.
So those are some personnel problems Democrats have. The other problem I suggest they have is from this Gallup survey. 57% of Democrats have a positive view of socialism. Only 37% of the country does. Moving left much faster and much dumber, per Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, than the electorate. For more on this topic and the midterms, we're pleased to be joined by John Fund, columnist for National Review, whose recent piece is about said speaker in waiting, Nancy Pelosi. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.
So what about, is Nancy Pelosi the issue? Can Republicans effectively play boogeyman politics with her, or should they be focusing on Ocasio-Cortez's mindless socialism and the Democrats as a socialist party generally?
Well, just remember, our public schools do such a bad job since the fall of communism. I don't think most Americans actually know what socialism is. So when you ask people questions about socialism and capitalism, people don't want to say, I don't know, and they throw out an opinion. What we do have to do is be specific, which is the Democrats want Medicare for all, which would bankrupt the country. The entire system is already going to run out of money in 2026. They want impeachment of the president, which I think would be a distraction for most Americans, not something that improves their daily lives. They want to basically abolish ICE, the Customs and Border Enforcement Agency, which is quite a radical idea. And they want to raise taxes, and it's the cutting taxes that have led to the strong economy that we've had. On top of that, you have Nancy Pelosi, who is not just the leader of the San Francisco Democrats, but is herself from San Francisco and symbolic of everything that is culturally relativistic and radical about the Democratic Party. So I think what you have to say is to a lot of suburban Republican women, and those are going to be the key swing voters this year, you may not like Donald Trump. And in fact, Donald Trump isn't very likable. But to be, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Voting for the Democrats is not going to get you anything you want for your kids, your pocketbook, or your family.
How do you predict the midterms will go? Do you think they'll get the 23 seats needed to flip the House? The Democrats?
It's going to be close. Nobody knows. We have campaigns for a reason. Otherwise, we just plug all these data points into a computer and spit out the results. Campaigns are about presenting ideas. And I think what's going to happen the next 90 days is we're going to have the two parties present their program. And I think that the Republican program is mixed, but the strongest economy we've seen in over 10 years. And the Democratic program is, we don't like that strong economy. We're going to do stuff that's going to mess it up.
How much does the Cavanaugh hearing play into this? I mean, so the Cavanaugh hearing, his confirmation hearing set for right after Labor Day. Right now it looks like it's going to go fairly smoothly, and this will be another accomplishment. It'll be an accomplishment in furtherance of a reason a lot of people voted for Trump who had qualms about him, and maybe this provides a little spark going into the last 60 days before the election.
I think it has far more impact in the Senate races because only the Senate votes on Kavanaugh.
Right.
There are 10 Democratic senators in states that Trump carried that are going to have to make a decision to whether or not to confirm him. And I think whether they're in states like Indiana or North Dakota or Missouri, all of which are, not far from Illinois, those Democrats who hate Trump are going to be furious if those Democratic senators vote to confirm Trump. And if they vote against confirm Kavanaugh, if they vote against confirming Kavanaugh, they're going to lose on the other side. So it's a no-win situation for Democratic senators running for re-election from Trump states, and there are 10 of them.
What do you see as the biggest pitfall for Republicans in terms of making this case that you outlined with respect to Nancy Pelosi and you were just articulating? Per your piece in National Review, the biggest challenge, is it these sort of sideshow skirmishes like the president is currently having with one Omarosa, or what could otherwise steal defeat from the jaws of victory for Trump and Republicans?
It's just after 7 a.m. Chicago time. Do you know what your president has been tweeting?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So the point is, Donald Trump has no impulse control. And he loves a fight, and sometimes he likes to start a fight. And for a lot of people, they're just exhausted. I cannot tell you how many voters I've met who simply say, can't he just keep quiet and do the job? And, a few tweets, fine. But it's a cascade of tweets. And I have to ask you, they're real questions. As bad as Omarosa is and as lacking in credibility as Omarosa is, someone had to hire her and put her in the White House.
Yep.
Who would that have been?
Right.
Right. And it's not only her, but then you look at that whole, I call them the land of misfit toys. Corey Lewandowski, Michael Cohen. I mean, he surrounds himself with very strange and bizarre people. Don't you agree?
Let's put it bluntly, people of low character.
Okay.
Yeah, and capacity too, in many respects. Well, this is it, and it seems to me the question is: do people just find this tedious and, like you said, exhausting, but it doesn't influence their vote, or do they say, "I'm going to vote against this guy's guys to send him a message to grow up"? I don't know.
There's a third option, which is the most dangerous option,
What?
and we saw that in the Ohio special election. You don't have to vote. Half the people don't vote in midterm elections normally.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that we saw in the Ohio special election, which was a lot closer than some people thought it would be, is more Democrats than normal turned out, fewer Republicans than normal turned out. That's a recipe for a bad midterm election. You don't have to have people vote Democratic to lose. You just have to have some of your people stay home out of exhaustion.
Is there any anticipation that Republicans may roll out sort of a preview of what a continued Republican majority would look like? For example, the kind of on-again, off-again discussion of tax cuts 2.0?
You would think so, but remember, unless the president is on board, it's not going to be a unifying message. I think they will do that. I also think the president has a rabbit he could pull out of his hat. What if he were just before the election to issue an executive order saying, if you've held a capital gain, whether it's a piece of land or a stock or a coin collection for a while, there have been inflationary gains to that. What if we said those inflationary gains aren't something you should be taxed on. Let's just tax you on the real value of the increase in your asset. That would incredibly boost the economy and turbocharge what is already a strong economy.
The handling of the Russian collusion investigation, Trump's not getting particularly high marks from the electorate at this juncture. But by the same token, it seems to sort of largely be going his way. Peter Strzok's termination yesterday is sort of another victory if you kind of view it through that lens. How do you assess that as impactful, or is it something people are just tuned out to?
I think we're heading towards Robert Mueller filing a report with the Justice Department. I'm sure that report will leak. I'm sure that report will carry embarrassing information, probably about the president's companies and, the fact that the president wasn't paying attention when some of his companies overseas did money laundering. And it'll hurt the president, but I don't think, unless there's something more that we don't know, I don't think there's going to be enough ammunition there for impeachment. And I think the whole special counsel operation will once again prove what, Eric Holder and Bill Clinton and Ken Starr and everybody else agreed on after the whole Lewinsky thing 20 years ago. Special prosecutors are a bad idea. We should get rid of them, and we should go back to regular order and have the Justice Department investigate crimes with the political professionals that are there, with safeguards that they will have political independence. Special prosecutors mess around, and they constantly are focused on a single target, looking for bad stuff. And I'm sure they found some bad stuff. Paul Manafort's a bad guy, but he's not part of Russian collusion. He's just a bad guy.
Well, do you think the Hillary Clinton sham or that investigation should be reopened now that we know Peter Strzok, he was biased in his feelings toward Hillary Clinton about President Trump, but he's been fired from the FBI? Or should
I don't think
lie?
There's a form of double jeopardy in the Justice Department with something like that, but it would be awfully hard to open a closed investigation against your main political opponent by a Justice Department that you ostensibly control or influence. That just looks really bad, and I think it would be like the battle over impeachment. It would be opening wounds that I think you can't really close, and it probably wouldn't work, and it would distract the country from the real issues.
He is John Fund, columnist for National Review, nationalreview.com. Latest column, Nancy Pelosi is damaging Dems' takeover chances. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
A real pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.